The fourth layer of the OSI reference model is the transport layer. Now the transport layer will deal the information in terms of datagrams or messages. Here also the transport layer also using the addressing mechanism, which is a port address, 16-bit port address. So every system will have 2 power 16 port addresses, 65,536 port addresses. The address will be from 0 to 65,535, that is 16 zeros to 16 ones. So each port address will refer to a particular functionality. Depending on the functionality required, so a port address is assigned for that. So that is being dealt by appropriate protocols in the transport layer. Then the transport layer will use sequencing. One function of the transport layer is sequencing. So whatever information is to be transmitted, suppose I want to send a large information, then I cannot send large information as a single packet or a single datagram. So then that large information is to be divided into smaller packets or segments or datagrams. Then when I am dividing, which is the first part of the information, second part of the information, so I need to mention some sequence. So packet 1 of 10. Suppose my entire information is to be divided into 10 parts. The first part 1 of 10, second part 2 of 10, third part 3 of 10. Likewise, the last one will be 10 of 10. So that in the receiving side, even though receiver receives these segments or datagrams or messages out of sequence, they will be rearranging them by seeing the sequence numbers. So for that purpose, a sequencing is being used. Again, the transport layer will be using another functionality, flow control and error control, similar to the data link layer. Whatever flow control mechanisms, error control mechanisms are used in the data link layer, the similar mechanisms are used even in the transport layer. As a result, so we are not going to discuss again the meaning of flow control. So that means both sender and receiver should agree for a common speed so that receiver don't lose anything. And error control, receiver should be able to identify whether received information is having any errors. Because here this is using the flow control and error control because of the sequencing. As the segments or datagrams, to large side are not supported, they are being divided into subparts, sub-brackets, sub-programs. Then, so each sub-program is going to, subpart is going to be verified for errors. So for that, the flow control, error control mechanisms are being used as fragmentation. Okay, because of the fragmentation happening in the network layer. So to avoid the errors, these error control, flow control mechanisms are used in the transport layer. Now this transport layer, so will be receiving the information from the session layer, and that is being made as datagrams or messages or segments. So this complete information, depending on the capability of the layer, so if the information coming from the session layer is large, it will be divided into small parts. Like this is one part, second part, third part. This entire information is divided into 3 parts. Then for each part, so the header part of this is being, so the header part of this is being added. So every segment will be added the header part. This header part will have sequence numbers and the port address of sender side port address and receiver side port address. So which protocol has to process? Okay, that will be indicated through port address and the error control mechanism to be used. Okay, sequence number to be used. So for example, this is being divided into multiple sequences, 1, 2, 3, likewise. So the same sequence numbers are being mentioned. Then everything, see, now it is being divided into 3 parts. So these 3 parts are being handed over to the network layer as 3 independent messages. Then, so the network layer will deal everything as an independent information or independent packet, and it is going to further process and hand over to the data link layer. Likewise, at the receiver side again, so whatever independent packets are received from the network layer, they will be combined They will be combined at the transport layer with the help of sequence numbers in the header part. Then the combined information will be again handed over to the session layer for further processing. So that is the role of transport layer. Okay, so depending on if this information coming from the session layer is small, so it may be sent as a single unit of data to the network layer. If the information coming from the session layer is large, it may be divided like this, maybe 2 parts, maybe 3 parts, maybe up to n parts. So depending on the size of the information that is coming from the session layer.